now we are going to move on to our next sponsored keynote event, and this will be our speaker, David Mohr, who is Regional VP for Neo4j. Yes, you may come up. Yes, you are permitted. Yes, it's fine. Dave is an experienced entrepreneurial, hands-on leader, and he has spoken for us before, and I know that you will learn a lot from what he has to say because he's been focused throughout his career on business intelligence, data integration, analytics, all those things basically that we cover in this conference, come to think of it, now that I'm looking at this bio. So he's been with Neo4j for quite a few years and has a bachelor's in computer science and concentration business application database programming, and take it away.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Dave Mohr. So I'm the VP of Sales for the Neo4j East region. Just wrapping up my 7th year at Neo. May 16th, I think, will be 7-year anniversary, beginning my 8th lap around the sun. And it's been, quite a fun ride. I joined the company, it was about 80 people. I'd say double-digit millions in annual revenue. And by now finishing our 7-year, we're about 725 people. And the annual revenue has grown 15x. So it's really been an exciting ride to watch Graph grow. And as my bio said, I've started in BI and data warehousing back in the 90s. So I've really grown up in the data management space in kind of this modern age as we moved from client server, data warehousing into internet and cloud. So really have seen a lot. And really the reason I've stayed at Neo so long is it's just been such an exciting growth and exciting ride for how organizations that you're a part of are able to grow with their data management strategies using Graph. So I'll get into that. Obviously, we're at a data summit. You guys all know this, that really at the heart of most of our enterprises today is a ton of data. And those data challenges really create a lot of business challenges, or really address a lot of business challenges. So you wouldn't be here if you didn't really know that, obviously. So we're going to blow right through that. Really at the heart of the enterprise challenge is this explosion of data. It's complexity, it's the growth of applications, it's the digital transformations that all our organizations are going through, generating tons of data that are existing in silos, in the cloud, in various types of applications, and the need to connect them is really where you can unlock the business value in that data. So that data complexity, the way your data architectures are set up, makes it really challenging to unlock the data. When we put this into some perspective, by 2025, we're talking over 200 zettabytes of data are going to be stored in the cloud. 1 zettabyte is 1 billion terabytes. So we're looking at 200 plus of that. It's just, enormous. The amount of applications that are SaaS-based, this is a European number, 65 SaaS, and I think that's kind of undershooting. It's probably more in the hundreds. So lots of data silos being created, and over 41 billion devices to be connected, so IoT devices. So that's a huge, huge challenge to understand all that data and pull it all together to try to drive some business value to address your digital transformation needs. So within these data silos, there's really valuable information, but it's all broken out. And it's really hard to expose those connections and the context of the data and the value of that. I'll use a good example. Everybody uses LinkedIn today. LinkedIn is powered by a connected database structure. So when you look at LinkedIn, right, you can pull up an individual profile, but it's really the connections in that profile that are really important. Who are they connected to? Who are you connected to that know them, right? That's what LinkedIn is all about. And it's not just having profiles out there. That was done a long time ago by Monster.com. right? You could put your resume out there and people could search for it. Well, LinkedIn has totally disrupted that. It's really about those connections. And you don't even have to ask LinkedIn who they're connected to. It just displays that for you. So you don't have to even ask the question. So that's the power of the hidden value in the context of that raw data. So what we're saying here is that the connections in the data are just as valuable, if not more valuable, than the data itself. So we've got individual profiles, and that's great if someone finds us and they're looking for us, but trying to navigate to find us, or not navigating to somebody that might be better or worse, right? You can easily compare. So it's those connections allow the users to navigate, the data itself. And, doing that for the enterprise is where you can start to unlock a tremendous amount of value that's hidden and exposed within that information. So, how do we do this at scale, where this explosion of data is happening? Today's traditional systems really can't do it. Legacy systems, and I know it's scary to call relational databases legacy because they're around and they're getting created every day. It's not going away, but they've been around for 50 years. What technology do you know of today that you would use has been around for 50 years and hasn't really changed much, right? The world of technology just evolves so quickly, and relational databases have been around that long. And they were really designed to optimize storage of data, really, right? So you denormalize all the data, put it all into the different data into the table, so you're storing the data more efficiently on disk, because back in the day, and it wasn't too long ago, where hardware was really expensive, and we needed to really find an optimal way to store the data, as well as have good data integrity, right? We don't need to store the customer name 50 million times because we'll never find it again. So, it's an oxymoron that relational databases really don't handle relationships really well. You have to design all that into your relational database if you want to query for information. It's all got to be built into the relational database with foreign keys and so forth. And if you've got multiple tables that you need to join and hop to retrieve the information you're looking for, it gets to be pretty complicated SQL code to do that. So it's a lot of maintenance, hard to be flexible and agile as your business users want more and more data to be incorporated into your system. You got to redo the schema, or you tell them it's going to take 3 months because we got a backlog of other projects, and this one looks, pretty heavy duty for us to do, so I'm sorry, we can't do it. So relational databases don't really handle the explosion of data, the complexity of data, and the agility of the business to need to address unlocking all the value in that data. NoSQL databases, Neo4j itself is a part of the NoSQL world, a subset. And most NoSQL databases are really good for storing and retrieving, schemaless kinds of designs. You can find information, but they're not really designed well for transactional kinds of systems. They're not ACID compliant, so the data integrity isn't there for transactional systems. Good for some analytics potentially, but NoSQL itself isn't just the answer. So a new approach, and it's not so new anymore, but it's a different approach today on how to expose all the value and the relationships in your data, is the graph. So Neo4j is a graph database, and we've been in the graph data business actually long before I joined the company almost 8 years ago. So fundamentally, it's based off of a very intuitive view of the world. You've got nodes and connections between those nodes, and those connections are the relationships. The nodes would be your entity. So in the analogy of LinkedIn, your individual profile would be a node, and when you connect with somebody, that's your connection, but also the connection has properties. So you've got what school you went to, what companies you've worked for, and all the all the things that make your individual profile unique that LinkedIn can search on. So it's a very intuitive model, the graph model. Here's a good example of one of the world's largest manufacturers who were looking to unlock the insights that they had in all their technical documentation and maintenance records, all in unstructured kind of data. So Caterpillar was really looking for ways to improve their customer service, be more efficient and effective of how they're providing services to their clients, using all the data they've got in all their repair records. And they, obviously a very difficult problem trying to use traditional technologies, and they came to Neo4j, and Neo4j gave them a solution they were looking for, and customer to this day. But graph technology is relevant across every industry and many, many different kinds of use cases. So this is just an example, whether it's recommendation, fraud detection, network and IT operations, master data management, risk and compliance, identity access management. It's very likely there's a graph solution underpinning and supporting how that solution is coming into play. You can see some of the logos where graph is being used, and these are our customers. Many of them are my team's customers: Pfizer, Kroger, Marriott, Citi, J.P. Morgan. We're working with these customers every day at helping them implement graph and expand their graph across many different use cases. So they'll get in and start with one application, see how it works, and then as they develop and learn more, see where else it can be used in the organization. Anybody heard of the Panama Papers? It was back in the 2016s. So Panama Papers was a big hack of data that came out of the law firm in Panama that was helping wealthy individuals and entities across the world create shell companies so that they could kind of hide their wealth from their government. Neo4j was the top of the stack to help connect those anonymous parties to the shell companies through all the efforts that they did to try to obfuscate themselves. So it's a great story, really exciting, and I think I joined, that had just kind of hit the map, and even to this day, there's still stuff that comes out of Panama Papers. 75 of the Fortune 100 companies today are using graph. So across lots of different industries: banks, automakers, aircraft, retailers, pharma, insurance companies. So very likely, if you work for one of these companies or you're in these industries, you'll see that graph is a part of that. I went through this a little bit, right? You've got the property graph. It's simply powerful. So it's a very intuitive way to model your business. So when you compare that to a relational database where you've got to do entity relationship diagrams and program foreign keys, and you look at that and most people don't really know what's going on inside that. When you look at a data model for graph, it's just super intuitive. You can almost read it in English. So you've got your entities, the relationships between those entities and the relationships have properties. The properties are directional, so it's, Dave works for Neo4j, Neo4j employs Dave, so those are similar relationships, but they're directional in nature. And that's the way that you model your business in graph, and it's super intuitive and really easy to do, and that becomes your database. Whereas in an ER diagram, now you got to turn that into a schema and, translate that for when you look at that, you're not really sure what's going on and where the relationships stand, aside from all the complexities of having multiple table joins and the overhead that provides. So it's a really powerful model, and as a result, actually provides very fast query results. This is from DB Engines, this particular slide. So that line that's separating itself, that's the graph database market. The bottom one is the relational database. So you can see the the growth of relational database over the last 50 years is pretty stagnant. It's pretty flat. And graph is really one of the most popular, fastest growing database categories that are out there. So you can check that out. It's dbengines.com, and you can see, if you haven't seen that, it's a website that tracks the entire database industry. You know, there are hundreds of database types and 1,000 different database vendors. So it's a very interesting one to check out. These are some quotes from the Gartner Group to, you know, really understand where they're thinking about graph, which is important that industry analysts are, you know, embracing new ways of leveraging data. So some of their some points that they're talking about is that they see graph being used in 80% of data and analytic innovations, up from 10%. So by 2025, up from 10%, that's back in 2021. So we're about halfway through. I'm not sure, you have to talk to your Gartner analysts to see where they think we are on this, but I see it a lot. Obviously, I live in the graph world, so I see graph being used in lots of analytic applications. Finding relationships and the combinations of diverse data using graph techniques at scale form the foundation of modern data and analytics. That's a pretty bold statement, where graph is going to be really critical for analytical applications. And we see it being a part of machine learning and AI and data science every day. So we actually have there's another event going on here in Boston, the Open Data Science Conference. So we're actually over there at the same time, speaking specifically to data scientists. And 50% of Gartner inquiries on the topics of AI involve discussion of the use of graph technology. So customers like yourselves, your organizations are reaching out to Gartner to understand more about graph and AI and ML and how that fits in with their data strategy. So it's happening out there. So where can we get started? There's many ways to learn about graph, many ways. We have books, so it's a good place to start. Read a few chapters of our learning about graph databases, learning about graph data science. They're free. They're on our website. Just download them. Get your hands on the software. So we have a free open source version. You can put on a server, community edition. You can run that forever for free, and you know, learn that way. Get started with some applications. We have our desktop edition software, which is the enterprise version that you can download to your desktop and run that, you know, forever. So you can start to learn how the environment works, how graph works. We have Graph Academy. So these are free, self-paced online classes, courses to learn about graph, learn about the tools, the techniques. So Cypher is the query language for graph, and it's like the SQL for databases. We have classes on that. It's super intuitive to learn. If you know SQL, you'll be able to pick up Cypher pretty quickly. Free classes. We have a YouTube channel, so you can learn more, get some other presentations, get deeper presentations about products. We even have customer success stories, customers themselves, like Christina from iRobot, folks like her in our customer base who have talked about how they've implemented graph in their environments. We just had our New York City Graph Summit, and we had Johnson & Johnson speaking about their use case for supply chain. We had Fidelity Investments, Fidelity Investments actually speaking in public, about their use of Neo for very large-scale implementation. They wouldn't tell us what they're doing with it, but they talk to it from a technical perspective. Dun & Bradstreet software. So those are some public ones, and we have even more of those on our YouTube channel, so you can really understand and see the real-world applications of graph in other environments. We've got a certification process. So there is a pretty significant demand for Neo4j expertise in the marketplace as we grow our customers. They're looking for expertise beyond just Neo. So certified professionals have a leg up from others. The first is to really really first step is to reimagine your data as a graph, because they're really everywhere out there. Data is connected, we're all connected, and it's a great way to start thinking about your data instead of rows and columns and tables. So Neo4j means graph, and you can visit us in the Expo Center. I'll be there. We have technical folks. We have AEs. We'll be here over the next 2 days. So come on by, talk to us, ask questions, and we'll get you started on the road. That's it. Thank you.